Yeah, I don't see this fairness to the rest of the council. Such a thing. Yeah, it serves me. We'll read it.
Oh, we did. Oh. We should do it.
It's not fair to not read, it's not fair to read, so that's what's good with it there. Very agree, very agree. Yeah, I don't think of. Got the air going in here. That was it all turned on. We got it set at 80 here, what's going on?
75.
This is the comments, good.
I'm from my fingers, they're cold.
I got too much fat, too much insulation. I'm built for cold weather.
Oh, I do this one all, but it's funny, this building that's like, I can do hot in one room and freeze it in the other.
Recording in progress.
Seems recording.
You know, they need another council member, huh?
Sarah's on.
But she can't talk.
Her name's Anna.
Anytime you guys want to come and join the meeting. You ready?
Well, almost.
Yeah. Along.
Yes.
All right. Call to order this Pleasant City Council meeting this Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Welcome everybody. Start with the pledge of allegiance, opening prayer reading and special thought by Council Member Dave Marriott.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening for the opportunity we have to be assembled together for a city council meeting. We're grateful for the government we have and grateful for the blessings we have to be in a great community and to be in a free country. And we're grateful this time of year for the Pioneer Day and grateful that we can celebrate. And we are thankful for the blessings that we have of being able to live here. And we ask a blessing tonight that we'll be guided in our decisions and in discussion and counseling together. And we're grateful for that process. And we ask, Father, that thou would bless our city and those that are employed at our city with their public works and city staff and police department. We pray for us to be able to be guided tonight and do these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, I have one page declaration of conflicts of interest. No. Okay, 1C is public comments, questions, mayor, limit to 3 minutes, and members of the public wish to address council. I think so. Can you hear? How about now? Okay, I'll try to speak up into it.
Information on me. Okay,
All right.
I think so.
Yeah,
Mine-
just state your name and.
Okay, my name is Matt Wardle. Not currently a resident in Pleasant View, but my business is in the Parkland Industrial Park. Utah's ranked number 9 in the nation for median home price. I'm not sure that's a distinction that we really want to carry. That makes it very, very difficult for people to own homes, for especially young people. And I wanted to speak a little bit to that. And I know there's been a lot of comments about responsible development, and full disclosure, I'm interested in moving to Pleasant View in the development that is the agreement that's under consideration today. the city master plan called for the extension of 500 West, and that road was something that I'm not sure the developers really wanted to foot, would have been willing to just put some lots on there, but to support the city. And typically, from what I understand, most roads are put in by the developers. That's a necessity. And the process, as I've been informed over the months that have led up to this, has been in coordination with staff, and had a lot of input from our both elected officials and the staff. And everything that I've seen, it's been above board. There's been no special deals. There's no reduced quality of proposed roads that were in the past or there today. And I would just ask the city council to be considerate of those folks and that development that is proposed, and also future developments, so that our children and grandchildren can have a hope of having a home in this great city. Thank you.
You bet.
Andy Neff, I just want, as a citizen, to say, are we rushing this? Are we following our ordinances? Or are we circumventing and creating? I know we have the opportunity to create a development agreement, but why don't we follow the same policies that are set up to go through planning commission and to the city council? Planning commission, this came before, we had quite a few people in the audience, and we actually swayed one way because we thought we would get a road. It followed the master plan, and so we made a recommendation that was not necessarily a popular one, but it was based on regular roads, sidewalks, connecting. So it's not for 20 years, not for this week, not for this year, but as it 20, 30 years from the road, we have to look at the development, what happens on that hillside. Great grandkids, whoever's going to go up there, we don't know. That's not for us to decide, but we owe it to them to say, here's our infrastructure. Now, because someone says, I don't want to put that road in, or I want to change it, we're changing that agreement. But if we're going to do that, that's okay. You have the right to send it back, and let's create those ordinances. Let's work with the citizens. What do they really want? I think we're rushing something and giving somebody, hey, we don't have to put so much cost into this. But if it needs to go, send it back through the procedures, open houses, talk to the citizens. What's the general plan? What do they really want? Seems like we're skirting the circumstances. I can only talk for me, not the whole planning commission, but had this come up like this, it would not have passed the planning commission. I would not have voted a recommendation to change that plan. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Scott Nicholson. I live at 4415 North, 400 West, and I've been here before talking to you guys about this stuff. So, yeah, there's so many problems with this development agreement right now. I think it just needs to be tabled and sent back for a little rewrite. My big problem with it, I hope you all got my email today explaining exactly what I thought. My big thing with this is it comes down to that road again. And if we're back to the rural road again, we're right where we started from, right? I mean, this is what spurred the whole A5, A2 zoning change and the general plan amendment. And right now, it just looks like this was all done for increased density. That it's just a little Ponzi scheme, whoever set it up. And I'm sorry, that's the way I feel, because that's where it's looking right now. We're going back to the rural road thing. So my recommendation be no on this. And if we're seriously thinking about the rural road, let's rescind your general plan amendment and the A2, A5 and start over again, because we're right where we started from. Thank you.
Let me just comment. The rural road is off the table. That's not even in the consideration. So after the last meeting, the developer agreed to put in a regular roadway. Okay, so there is no more rural road. I also want to point out the rural road was in response to the previous group of people that came here during the rezone, and what was so concerned about the water recharge that staff worked on a way to come up with what they thought was a good compromise to help the water go back into that area. There's other ways to do it, but that's where we were on that. But it is off the table now. So there's no rural road.
Okay, I understand that. And then, there's other things that are missing too. I mean, if we're talking about the recharge thing, where's the geotech survey in this thing? That's not in this plan at
It
all.
comes as the next step, yeah, but it's already been geoteched 100 times, so.
Well, if I don't talk to the planning commission guys that they were gonna require more stuff done, and we haven't run this through the planning commission either. So I think honestly, I think this needs to be run through the planning commission, even if it's just a development agreement, needs to be run through the planning commission and have a public hearing on it. Some thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Charlotte Christopher, 4244 North, 500 West, and I have to have glasses too. That happens when you get old. First, I have a statement that I'd like to read, then I'd like to comment on something from you, Mayor. Let me just say that I am opposed to approving this development agreement as it stands right now. I believe all developers, whether they're building a road or building a house or what, should be held to our current city codes. And you guys were elected to represent us in this beautiful city, and it is a beautiful city, and thank you for that. But a few months ago, you sat here and you told us that we could get this $1 million road at the cost of the developer, and it would save the city huge amounts of money. And now you're telling us that you're willing to go with a 60-foot road instead of a 66-foot road.
The roadway is not that wide. That's the right of way. So it's a
Okay,
different thing.
right away,
Okay.
whatever. But you're also telling us that, and maybe it's changed, but you were going to have bark trailways. I understand that he's agreed now to put in one sidewalk on the east side of the road. Is he still going to put the bark on the other side of the road? And let me tell you, you can't manipulate yourself on a bark trail, even when you're young, I don't think. But especially someone like me, or someone who has a wheelchair, or other types of movement. But anyway, I just am asking that you not let this developer provide something that is less than our standard code for the city. And so I would ask that you would please deny this request at this time and send it back and let them come to meet the city codes. Thank you.
Hi, Julie Farr, 4275 North, 500 West. I wrote a letter and actually submitted it this morning to Tammy, not realizing she was out of town, asking that you all got it. Did you all get it and have a chance to read it? I hope that you did. A couple of things I would like to address. The rural road concept. I was the one who initially brought that up in Planning Commission when we were looking at trying to preserve the land as 8.5. I said, let's look at alternatives. But then it was determined this land was not as sensitive as what we had thought or what people had determined it to be. And so the rural road concept indeed was brought up by me for A5, absolutely not for A2. When you look at this subdivision, it is the criteria on paper, it is an A2 subdivision. And I addressed that in my letter. These homes are not clustered. You can't do something like that and just create a few varied lot sizes and say it's clustered. No, in our policies, it says clustering is sharing a communal space, sharing amenities. It is not what is being presented. Cluster housing typically involves smaller homes grouped around shared open spaces and amenities, promoting sustainability and efficient land use. This subdivision in no way meets that criteria. Lot calculations must be objective and consistent. You really enter dangerous territory when you say, oh, I feel that that can sustain 13 lots or whatever. We have standards in place and we need to stick to those. Sidewalks are essential. I'm a registered nurse. How many patients have I taken care of who have fallen because of uneven ground? People with disabilities and older people, they need to have sidewalks. The other issue here is we talked about how, in fact, I feel it's almost a bait and switch, and I'll be honest. We talked about this road being so essential for the growth of the city that we needed it to go up. And I actually defended all of you. When the decision went against what I had thought, I talked to citizens and said, though I don't agree with it, and I think it could have been developed A5, I understand where city council is coming from. They're looking to the future. We're looking at a major connector road according to the master plan. Eventually along the bench, we're likely to run from North Ogden clear out west. And it is going to be a major connector road. So now to say, well, you know, the road's not as important, we can have a smaller road, we can do without sidewalks. To me, this is very unfair and it is not consistent. Tree preservation was talked about previously. There is nothing in this development agreement about that. The precedent and process matters. You set this precedent, we're likely to have, okay, I'll finish up here. We set this precedent, we're likely to have development agreements come all across the bench wanting to circumvent the way that it should be, going through planning commission, public process, and then city council. So I appreciate you all reading my letter. I think it was very clear cut. And I would urge you to deny this and hold it to the standards that the city has and for the future of the city.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 2, development agreement. Discussion and possible action to consider adopting the development agreement with Valpaul for the Christopherson Ranch subdivision located at approximately 540 West, 4300 North. I'll start with a couple of comments. Number one, this development agreement is for several things, one of which is a cluster subdivision. The other is to accommodate, it's still to accommodate the taking or that not take the road, but to exact the road. It's a very complex legal thing and it involves city funds, okay? City funds, the spending, whether we do a 60-foot right of way, 66 right of way, we pay the difference. Whether it's proportionate or not proportionate, we pay the difference. And we've been working very hard to make sure that we don't expend a whole bunch of city funds. And that's part of this agreement. That's why it doesn't come to the planning commission. It's city funds that we're negotiating with here. Planning commission doesn't negotiate city funds. City council negotiates city funds. So with that, lead Andreas, you've got a presentation of changes.
Yeah, so before I start with the presentation, it has been brought to my attention that I have been perceived as representing Valpaul in this, on these items. So I just wanted to point out that I am here to bring forward what the city codes are, what the staff concerns were, what changes have been made, what the developer is bringing forward. So I'm not advocating for the developer. I'm just presenting the information to the city council so that they can make the best decision in the interest of the city.
Which is exactly your job. Thank you.
Correct. So the concept plan hasn't changed since the last time that we met. We talked a little bit about development agreements the last time and their purpose. We've had some comments about following the standards of the city and following the ordinances. We have in our ordinances, development agreements are allowed. In fact, they are required if you do approve a clustering subdivision. That being said, when I consult with legal counsel, it is taking into consideration the proportionality of what the city gets and what the developer gets. You can make compromises, you can make concessions, but you do have to weigh what is fair and equal for both the city and the developer. So just keep that in mind as you make this, because if the scale is tipped one way or the other, then you're setting a precedent for the future. So to begin with, the issue of density, he had 13 lots proposed. With the calculation, it was 11.5. If you allowed him to use the calculation with the extra 6 foot from the roadway, taking it from 66 to a 60, then that would allow him 11.7. He does propose 13 lots, and nothing has changed on that since the last time that we met. The next, okay, this was the existing easement is not indicated for trail use, which is the one that runs from Wadman Park up to 4400 North on the east side of the development. No changes have currently been made. The developer indicated that he will obtain an easement from the property owner. So I would verify that that is, legal and binding before you go ahead with this option.
Sorry, I know there was questions about the surfacing of this trail. This isn't the sidewalk, this is a trail easement.
This
that
is
would go-
simply from the service road in Wadman Park
Yeah,
up to 4400
up
North.
to 40.
Completely on the east side of the development,
Right.
not
Where
500.
the detention,
It's-
where the
Yes.
detention basin currently is at.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah,
And it's attaching to existing bark trails
Yeah.
inside of Wadman.
and so surfacing, we don't really care about that, we care about the easement. We don't care if it's bark.
Yes, because currently it's a maintenance for the utility mains that run through there. So if they added that, they would be doing an existing or matching the existing that's inside of Wadman with the
Yeah, I
bark.
walked.
Can I ask a question on that? Is the detention pond an easement also right now? I know it was purchased, but is there a separate easement that goes away, or was that a temporary holding pond, or
It's gonna be replaced, right, with a new. like
it,
where-
we replaced, but I'm just curious if there is actually a recorded easement for it beyond just the trail portion of it, just the
There's-
utility
yeah.
easement.
It's utility easement and maintenance easement right now, which is why it's not indicated for a trail easement. So that's why we'd want to guarantee that was also
That would be
obtained,
modified.
Yeah.
prior to
'Cause
promising a trail there.
I get what we're doing. I don't have any concerns about that part, but I just was curious because I believe when that subdivision was put in, it was a temporary detention pond only. It was not.
The pond is restricted on the plat with a temporary pond note.
Okay,
So that's how the pond is being dealt with itself. And then you have the separate utility main easement on the side where the trail would be.
okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify.
No,
that.
you're fine.
Okay.
The next issue that we had was, does the proposed subdivision meet the objectives of the cluster development? Clearly with the concept plan not changing, nothing has changed, as far as what the developer had involved in there. In consulting legal counsel, we reference chapter 18.35 in our special approval residential zones. Have all of you had an opportunity to read the purpose and intent of that zone?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what the purpose and intent is. Legal counsel says that is up to you to decide whether or not it meets the criteria of the purpose and intent for that zone. That's up to interpretation by each of you as council members.
How much is the open space again? 6 acres? 6, little under 6?
Yeah, and I tried to zoom in and it gets blurry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I wasn't 100% positive on that. The next issue that we had was an easement was needed to continue 4300 North across on the bottom, on the south side of the development. The developer indicated that Pleasant View City has already obtained that right of way. As you can see, it was part of a purchase or an offer package through our acquisition agent. And I did verify that it was recorded with Weber County on March 17th of this year. So we do indeed have that easement on 4300 North. On the 500 West issues, it was that the rural road cross-section was not adopted and that the 60-foot width didn't meet the master street plan. The developer since the last time we met has changed from requesting a rural road cross-section to a standard road section at 60-foot wide still, with sidewalk on only one side. And so then on the slides that I sent to you, I did provide the master street plan as well as a standard cross-section of the road just for your reference. Okay, so the next issue was the right-of-way that was requested on 4400 North, or to potentially extend 4400 North from 500 West to the west boundary of the subdivision.
Or what?
West boundary. Yep, so he's coming from the east to 500. He'll dedicate and install that portion of the road. We were asking for a 60-foot right of way for connectivity into the adjoining property.
Yep.
Nothing's been changed since then. The developer has indicated that he's spoken with the adjoining property owner. I've also had a meeting with the adjoining property owner. He has an alternative proposal on how to get him connectivity. The developer is also concerned about with that easement going across there or the right of way going across there, that it could affect the green belt eligibility for him, which would affect his taxes on that property. In speaking with legal counsel today, I kind of approached the 500 West and 4400 North and everything that the city's asking to try and figure out the proportionality. He basically indicated that the city's kind of in a hard spot when it comes to an exaction. If you're requesting 500 West to be installed at the 60 or the 66-foot right of way, which I did want to point out that in previous iterations of the development agreement, that extra 6 feet was proposed to be purchased by Pleasant View City. So if you do go with the 66-foot road, we have offered, it would be a city obligation to purchase that extra 6 feet. However, when in talking to legal counsel with 500 West and 4400 North, if you require the easement or the right of way across 4400 North and an entire standard road section with sidewalks on both sides on 500 West, even increasing his density by the one lot, legal counsel indicates that we would be moving the scales over to an exaction. So
The exaction you're taking.
to a taking.
Yeah.
If you wanted to require the 4400 North right of way and leave the spot on only one side of the road, then you balance out the scale. But he's saying, if you're requesting all of that, you're starting to tip the scale in favor of the city. So. This issue was that the developer omitted the request to improve the 4575 North adjacent to the property. It's going to be that top western lot. And nothing has been changed since we met last on that. It's still omitted from the agreement. This was a big section on the open space, the irrigation. The developer did remove the uses that weren't allowed. When we had this discussion last time, I believe it was agricultural and educational. So he has removed those from there. We still don't have information from Pineview on what secondary water will be required per law or for the development. He indicates that he'll obtain a will serve letter from Pineview to make sure that that's covered. Staff did request that he add that the wetlands be protected by easement. That has not been added to the development
What kind
agreement.
of easement would that be?
I'm not,
I mean, that's
Well-
governed by the Army Corps of Engineers, not by Pleasant View City, so I'm not sure if he goes in and disturbs the wetlands that, yeah, I'm just. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
sorry, I gotta get back on track.
Yeah.
I think that was everything on that slide. As far as the culinary water system goes, we had originally requested that a paragraph be omitted. because we weren't able to determine whether or not that 500 west water line would need to be replaced. The developer added language basically to put in he added language that says if we determine that's needed, then this, that would apply. I did take that back to our city engineer. She reviewed that. The only addition that she would have in there is language to say that it's at the city's sole discretion on whether or not that water line needs to be replaced, rather than an unknown party determining whether or not the water line needed to be replaced.
That's not changed in the agreement though, right? Yeah, that's what they just recommended.
Right.
Okay.
So the engineer was okay with the language that he added in there, giving that contingency that if it needs to be replaced, then that paragraph stays in there.
This is, yeah, I think so.
Do you want me to go back?
One that was.
He has to get a licensed contractor bid. What that would be, right?
You have the right one.
Utility infrastructure. That's not indicated in the development agreement about the licensed contractor, but it would need to be done to city standards.
It's 1.3 billion. So this is paid.
Yeah, so
Page 3 of
the
8, yeah.
water infrastructure is on 2.1.
Oh,
Okay.
so this isn't this says developer shall provide licensed contractor bid for 500 west water line improvements and shall negotiate good faith with the city for reimbursement of improvements as detailed in paragraph
2.2A, yeah, yes.
Where does it say the city has this discretion of it, whether it's,
It's not
Placement.
in there now. That was
Okay.
suggested added
That's what I was-
language, yeah.
So we're gonna add that to the 2.1A.
So it'd be 2.1, it would say if replacement of the water line is determined to be warranted at the sole discretion of the city, then the following language.
If we decide that needs to be replaced, are we planning to upsize that line, or is it just a replacement of the existing line?
It's 10-inch.
No, I think we were moving it up to a 10-inch. I know it keeps getting referenced as a 10-inch, but it's an 8-inch currently.
So if we decide it needs to be fixed, we would want to upsize the.
Yes, and those are all costs that the city we would have to evaluate and budget, and then that's standard. And I think the last 4 or 5 subdivisions we've had in kind where we were fixing one of our deficiencies. So if he's coming in, just table it out as the developer and the city, and list out in detail, 1-inch water taps, however many, if they need 13, that's on the developer. Hydrants aren't the city's maintenance. He would have to add hydrants for the hot taps, and you just get a better price when you're doing it under those developments for the city's side of it.
The next one regarding stormwater was just a minor language change, which has been added into the agreement by the developer. These items here needed legal review. I sent the information to legal. We had a brief meeting today. He does not like any of paragraph or any of section 4 and would like to rework that. And that's basically just under the term and the binding effect. Yeah, so I don't know how much that affects your decision on the development agreement, but he would like to reword some of just the way that it's stated, instead of being this agreement, he would like to change to this proposed development contained herein. Rather, so that the terms and the binding effect have to do more with the development itself than the agreement that we're entering into.
Our attorney over there, I can see his mind, his wheels just racing.
Right, city's attorney.
I know.
He did add the contact information that was requested. He added the transferability clause, which I believe is also in section 4 that the attorney would like to just rework on that. And then, let's see. Under the dedication agreement that he now is Exhibit C. He references Weber County in there, and I believe that this template came from Weber County, which is why it says that. So it would just need to be changed to reflect Pleasant View City rather than Weber County, that he's dedicating the easements and the roads and things to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then these just covered basically what we covered before about the cluster development, that the 60-foot isn't on the master plan, the open space language that we just covered, and then 5 is a moot point because it refers to the rural road section. So those are the changes that have been made since the last time that we met.
I believe Sarah has joined us by Zoom. Is she still there? Yes, she has a letter she sent, she would like read. Yeah, I thought, oh, real, Sarah, will you be able to answer questions from other council members if you?
I can, but my voice is terrible
Can't hear
and
you.
it's loud. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, Sarah. Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys just fine. My voice is terrible. So
Okay, go ahead.
can you hear me? I don't know.
So I'll go ahead.
I didn't hear, let me ask first. I didn't hear your answer. Will you be able to respond to questions about your letter?
I'll try. I will try. My voice is terrible and it's loud here, but I will try. Yes.
Okay, so this is what I received from Sarah. It says, I have read the proposed agreement that the applicant had sent over. I appreciate that the applicant has made efforts in adjusting some of the provisions of the agreement. I also appreciate the invitation to meet on site of the property in question to learn more about the proposed development. While I know development agreements are legal and are a tool that can be used to address unique circumstances, they should also ensure the protection and economic interests of the city residents and be proportionate and beneficial to both parties involved. Development agreements are also not necessarily the norm to our processes. While I also know that our ordinances do require a development agreement for clustering, from talking with planners and land use attorneys, that should have been done at the rezone consideration to ensure that the city and applicant had agreements in place that would be binding. The current proposed development agreement doesn't meet the intent of the A2 zone and our current city development standards. The clustering concept for this development does not meet the intent of our ordinances under Chapter 18.35, Special Approved Residential Zones. It also doesn't appear to meet the guidelines under LUDMA, Utah's Land Use Development and Management Act. In essence, smaller individual lots close together in exchange for dedicated open space. The road cross section does not meet our city's development standards for roads with standard sidewalk on both sides. Lack of connectivity and improvements of infrastructure. Under our subdivision ordinance, we require developments to make their portion of infrastructure improvements of the development that abuts a public road. Dedicated open space. Under our ordinance, Chapter 18.35, Special Approved Residential Zones. In the proposed agreement, the open space doesn't meet those requirements. It isn't being dedicated as landscaped public open space for trails, parks, and recreational uses. It can be dedicated to the city or not, but it must have public access. The proposed agreement wants to keep the open space as private under Greenbelt for agricultural use. The city, with Planning Commission and council approval, has adopted plans, standards, and ordinances. These help to ensure best practices and protections of rights for both the applicants and existing residents and decision-making for the long-term and general well-being of our city. These tools are in place to help restrain government from making decisions based on persuasive arguments from applicants or staff. They ensure protections for all. So I think that the applicant should develop under A2 zone provisions. The development agreement in its current form does not meet our development standards or the A2 zone provisions. I would reject the current development agreement proposal and go back and redo the agreement to meet the city standards and ordinances. Thank you, Sarah Yuri.
Okay, a couple of comments I have on that is, number one, to go to an A2. First off, cluster that's being presented. And cluster subdivisions, this is a unique thing because usually they're not in agricultural zones like in A2. Okay, they're usually to create these smaller, like she's talking about. However, these are smaller lots. They're not A2 lots, they're smaller lots. And to allow for open space. To develop could, if he wanted, go back to A2 and do away with all the open space, which is strange because that's what everybody wanted in the first place, was some open space. The more rural nature of the whole thing up there. I think we're trying to kind of confuse the situation here by saying this isn't normal. Well, it isn't normal because you don't usually use a cluster subdivision in an A2. So, but that don't mean it can't be done. It just means that's not what most people do because they don't have A2 densities like Pleasant View has. That's for a rarity. That's pretty much unheard of anywhere else, except when you really get into rural counties, over the hill maybe, up in Upper Eden in that type of area. They have some smaller or larger lots. Some are A5, some are, I believe, A2s now. So anyway, so it is a little unique. But the concept of just saying, let's go back to A2, I'm not really sure what that accomplishes other than a bunch of standard sized lots with no open space. So I think the compromise to, again, we're looking at two things here, not just a development agreement for a cluster subdivision, but also to make sure our proportionate exactions are just that, proportionate, and doesn't tip the scale like the attorney says to a taking. So I think, and maybe we need to include some language into the development agreement, into the development agreement that expressly states that this is to solve this purpose so that we don't set a precedent that everybody's worried about setting. Again, if another piece of property came in with exactly the same thing as we've put in there, as long as we put the right stuff in there, then it probably is right for that too. But I really don't foresee that happening. That language, it appears to be just at first blush, a development agreement for a clustered subdivision. So I think my recommendation would be let's just add, because of this roads, what we want to accomplish as a city, this is what we're willing to give and take to make sure that these roads are proportionate to an exaction. I think just like I said, just to kind of clarify and make it clear in the future that this was something that was worked at to make sure that we met the law. It's a pretty stringent law. Okay, the exactions versus takings thing. I had no idea it was such a big thing. But if you stop to think about it, it's to keep cities from going in and taking people's personal or property, protect their property rights, and it should be a big thing. So I agree that it's but we've never really faced it before because here's the tough part. It's going to be faced in the future. All the easy land is developed, or at least most of it. 95, 98% of the easy stuff. The things we've been looking at lately are problems. I mean, they're different. Why shouldn't it be easy? Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, and that makes sense. The developers are going to come in here and say, hey, I got this nice big rectangle and I can just do this and extend this and and they say, oh, sure, that's wonderful. But most of that is it's going away. So or has gone away. So you're going to see more and more of this kind of weird thing. So yeah, we want to do it right, but it's imperative that everybody knows, and it's imperative that we documented in this agreement that this is more than just a cluster subdivision development agreement. Okay, it also takes into account this exaction versus taking versus. That's why we're willing to give and take the areas we're willing to give and take. Okay, anybody else questions or comments about that? not, I'd entertain your own questions or comments.
I have a question for Sarah on the, and maybe not.
Oh,
for
you're
Sarah.
right, yeah.
You know, the public access on this open space, I don't agree with that. With this clustering of, at least my understanding of clustering is we've allowed, if 26 acres, 13 2-acre lots. And 5 or 6 acres, whatever the open space is dedicated, that's dedicated. You just can't have any buildings on that space.
Right.
It's open space, nothing will be built on it, no sheds, no anything, it'll just be open for the deer,
Forever.
for the turkeys and things that are up there. And a lot of that is the kind of the wet slushy place that cannot be farmed right now, and it will remain that way. I personally don't think the city doesn't want that. It's the property owner's property. It just can't be built on it. That's what my understanding of an open space is. Or that's what
Well, I think
that's what I'm putting as my thoughts on an open space. It's not, the public doesn't have access to that going through our park. Wadman Park is a public open space. This is a private open space that's not to be developed. That's what I think. And so to say that you want public access or trail system, whatever through that, I think that's something, if we take that on, we could do that. But we have Wadman Park that has public open trails and space on the east side of this. And
Mayor, may I make a comment?
So Steve's done.
Okay.
I want to make that's my understanding of what I'm approving an open space is for. You just can't build on it, and they're agreeing to leave that, and that is going forward. And I think that one, what was it? Where this is transferable, it has to be. We can't let that transfer and change. It has to. That's open space till the end of time.
Right.
That's not, you can't just build on it 20 years from now, but that's open space going forward.
Right, which is what that dedication agreement is that would be recorded with the
Right,
plat.
but that's what I think it is. And if he wants to have horses on it, whatever, as a private property, just can't have a building on it.
Sarah? We lost your,
Sorry. So, I mean, again, development agreements allow city council to pretty much do what you would like to do, but according to our ordinance, our 18.35 or 36 ordinance, it defines what open space is. And open space is dedicated. When we use the word dedicated, it feels like you're giving something. Well, you are. You're giving up development. You're exactly right, like that. The city doesn't have to own it. Sorry, I'm still here. The city doesn't have to own it. It can be owned by the developer. However, it spells out specific uses for it, and Greenbelt is not one of those. It does talk about public access, and so again, development agreements allow you to change that if you like. But he's choosing a spot, which is right as well, that is slushy and nothing except for being able to grow hay on it or whatever. And so dedicated open space, it's not meeting the, at least from what I read in that ordinance, what the concept or the idea of what the city has decided dedicated open space is. It doesn't have trails, it doesn't have improvements for landscaping, it's not for recreation, it's not for parks, it's for his own private use. And that's not dedicated open space.
okay, and in fairness, she read half of what open space is. It also says in the same ordinance she was quoting that it can be maintained in its natural state.
Can we read that?
Again, I think.
Okay.
Can we read?
Just read this really quick?
Yes, if you could.
So,
Yes, it can.
It's 18.35040. This is from our own code. I'm going to start with the one cluster developments. Cluster developments are intended to allow for the preservation of open spaces by permitting flexibility in neighborhood and subdivision lot designs. The provision of open space may be developed as recreation facilities or left in its natural state for the preservation of natural features or wildlife areas or a combination thereof. It is not intended that this type of development be universally applied, but only where circumstances of natural features and land use make it appropriate and of special benefit to the residents.
I want to go back to what I said about this being kind of an abnormal cluster development in as much as it's in a rural area with large rural lots. Typically, you think of a cluster subdivision as more,
High density.
yeah, high density. So you got this area, high density, you put a park or, you know, whatever. And that's kind of not what this is. It's more like,
But Mayor, our code says clusters cannot, like it sets a minimum lot size you can't go below. So it's supposed to be based off RE20. It's supposed to be based off half acre lots and
Yeah.
it can't go below
right.
RE15. So we can't do. Like when we were describing clusters, it sounded like we were saying, well, clusters are supposed to be houses on tiny little lots in a circle. And that's,
not
our
allowed.
city code doesn't even allow that. We can't do that if we want to. So it's supposed to be based off of a half acre lot standard, and then you go from there. It's supposed to.
So if I can for a second, I think there's a lot of misinformation around this property. This has been a very controversial property, as we all know. I went up and walked it as well this week, and, you know, we denied a half acre proposal years ago. We denied 1 acre proposal years ago. And then we accepted the 2 acres. And I think, interestingly to me, the upset citizens are the ones who are on half acre lots, which is kind of shocking to me. But residents ask for open space. They ask for water recharge. They ask for that we keep the consistency with Wadman Park, and they ask for tree preservation. We did actually have a resident make us move a tree at Wadman Park at one point. So there's a little bit of a controversy there, but so we asked the developer then, okay, these are the things the citizens want: open space, recharge, keep consistency, right? And yet when we come up with that idea and we say, okay, we've got some open space here, then it's not good enough for the residents, you know? And we say, we're not gonna put a sidewalk on the east side because we wanna maintain that consistency with Wadman Park, because that's what they asked for. Now that's not what they want, you know? And so I feel like we're getting pushed around a little bit here. We tried to do a smaller road, like you said, for water recharge. They don't want a smaller road. That's fine, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like anything we do, they just don't want building there, you know? And we can't do that to a developer, you know what I mean? So what standards do we follow? The reason why we are even doing a development agreement is because we asked them to cluster. And when you ask them to cluster, you have to do a development agreement. And so that's what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do. So when I looked at the road master plan, this calls for a minor collector, which is a 66-foot road. So the definition of minor collector, or right of way, sorry, definition is local neighborhood to arterial. So like the mayor said, again with misinformation, the road itself is still going to be the standard size. The only thing we're compromising here, and the reason why is because we want open space and water recharge, and it's against Wadman Park, is just one side of the sidewalk. So to me, like, that makes sense that we're like trying to preserve some things, and yet, you know, so anyway, so I just think, you know, if we deny this right now, then the developer can just come in and do 2 acre lots. And so then if that's, you know, then we lose those things that we were asked to do: open space, water recharge, keep consistency with Wadman. That's something he could just do right now. If we say no to this, then he can just do that. So, I mean, I do have some questions. My one question is, up above on 4575, the developer at this point is not developing that road. Would we require another developer to do that road? And then do we go back to the taking again?
Well, first off, what part of the road are you talking about? Just that sliver where he's meeting?
Yeah, because he's not responsible for the full road, right?
Well,
He would just be responsible for his side, right?
Yeah, then it goes back to we've exceeded, you know. And here's the funny thing, or problematic thing in my mind. And this is his argument, and I get this was predates by a long time, any of us here. But when that road was put in, 4575, it was put in as a rural road to service 3 or 4 homes along 4575. The city allowed that.
Was it called a rural road? Because
Well,
but
I don't know.
it is very rural.
I assume
very
it's not
fast.
PRD.
It's
I'm just curious.
standard.
substandard.
Well, yeah,
But it was,
Why they got there.
but it was put in and the city
Yeah.
accepted it.
it was
and,
25
So he's
plus
just
years ago.
planning on meeting that instead of building this odd section of road that's, I don't know what the distance is.
It's 300 feet, I think. Is it that far? Maybe not. It's
Maybe
about
not.
that. Yeah.
That. Yeah, it's kind of like putting in a sidewalk to nowhere. You got this road and then there's no houses there, but there's this improved 300 feet. Makes absolutely no sense when the city has approved and accepted a roadway that is there now.
But the road will connect. It's going
It
to
will
connect.
connect.
It's just gonna connect. at the
4,500 is
top with the
gonna
standards
Stop,
that it's
stop at the
currently
top.
at.
Yes,
Yeah.
it will connect,
Yeah.
Improving that northern 4575 section that goes east to west.
but he's connected.
Just on
It's
the
just connect.
south,
Yeah,
just his border. So like Serenity, any of the south of PV Drive.
Well,
They're coming
it's
up
not
and-
fair to compare other subdivisions that are not involved in worrying about takings versus exactions. Okay, in my opinion, I mean, this is again, legal saying you can ask for about this much, else you start to tip the scales. So that's where we're at on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what this norm is, but
On that topic, I think if we required 4575 to be developed halfway, half of it by the developer, the city should be responsible to do the other half of that road at the same time, because it doesn't make sense to have just part of the road done. You would have a damaged road. That road is a really bad, it's a bad situation as it is, and we need to fix it someday. How do we do that? That's a major question, but.
So.
No,
Or
I
Jen,
suppose,
sorry.
yeah, on that
So
part
on that
alone.
Note though, so could you ask the developer for the funds to do his half of the road, but not improve it until it gets developed and gone through?
I think we could ask escrow that, yeah, if whatever that is, and we hold it to a date, but if you say that, then that's part of the taking probably. And in addition to that, when would we ever be ready and willing to do that road? Because that's a lot of road for 3 houses. It's a half a mile. And that's a hard thing to swallow, to improve that road, but.
you know, we got a lot of needs and
So just along my comment line, as far as like, I looked up what, the road that goes up 500 West, and so I am in favor of doing, the sidewalk, the curb and gutter, the full road, the curb and gutter again. But I'm okay not doing another sidewalk on this side that's next to Wadman Park. So, but as long as the road is the standard size road itself, right?
Can we clarify that? So the easement will be smaller, but the road, 44 feet is our standard road width plus 5 feet per sidewalk, so 54 feet. Is that?
And then 2.5
for that road.
for curb.
Yeah, I
Gutter.
He's gonna look it up.
Yeah,
He goes, I got a picture of it.
40 feet back of curb to back of curb,
40.
40 feet.
So yeah, you're going from a 6-foot right away, so back curb to back of curb should be 46 feet.
Yeah, 500 is an 80-foot, including the right of way.
Residential, which is to back of curb is 40 feet.
So what would the
Yeah.
would the roadway itself change? Would the
You're
pavement that's put on the
losing
ground?
6 feet of pavement
So we would
or
reduce the size of
drive
the
area.
road, not just the easement.
with a 60-foot standard from a 66, yes.
So the roadway itself would be,
It would be the same as any residential street, just not a collector street.
It's not a
Not
minor
a
collector.
minor collector.
so it'd
So
be-
it would be a minor street, not a minor collector.
It would be the same
But on
standard.
your master roads plan, it is designated as a minor collector, correct?
Yes, that's
Yes.
true.
And we can make it that. We just have to pay the $50,000.
I'm just saying that that's on the plan that we adopted, that we paid, to study and adopt as a plan.
So
So
it-
just saying,
sorry,
And that is
what-
the adopted impact fees. That's,
and we adopted
Easy
impact fees
area.
to,
So for
So-
4,400, is that what we're talking about, the width of the road?
I was talking about 500
Yeah,
west.
no, I
Okay.
understand. Is the
And-
same width that we're talking about, this reduced 500, would that be the same width that 4,400
Yeah.
currently?
It would be a
4,400.
minor street, 60 foot
it's the standard residential.
right away. Okay.
So.
Not
the
a
60
minor collector.
foot is a minor collector.
Got it.
Gotcha.
So
So I'm
that's,
just trying
that's
to,
the
I'm trying to
extra
envision the
6
width
feet.
difference, so.
If I can, I just wanted to mention up above. Can I say something? Sorry, can I say something real quick? Or,
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
oh, if I need to stop, but, just the development above with where the Blackburns and those guys live. You know, the hillside was A5 for as far as we can remember and things like that, and we always kind of say it will never happen. But I don't think that that's something that we can even gauge, that it will never happen. We have lots of sidewalks and lots of areas around the city that we have since had to apply for grants and pay out of our general fund to improve, because at the time, people either said it would never happen or it's too expensive and things like that. But then ultimately the residents end up having to pay for it to install because safety issues or what have you. So when we say it would never happen, I don't think that that's probably correct, because at least the way that I look at things long term. And if we've designated that as a collector, the only ways we get off the mountain right now are 900 West and 1100 West. And it will, that 4575 will connect to Skyline Drive someday. And that hillside will be developed someday. And that road will be widened someday. So if we don't require developers to put in their fair share, me and everybody else sitting in that room and 12,000 other people are going to have to pay what the developer, our share and the developer share as well. Just saying that because it's happened. It's already happened since I've been on city council. Lots of areas that we've had to put in because somebody didn't want to do it when they were required to. So just some thoughts.
I think the discussion on the 60-foot versus the 66 comes down to not what the developer wants to do, but what the city wants to do. We're on the hook for the other 6 feet. So it's, again, it's a financial decision that city council needs to make, not what the developer wants to do or don't want to do. It's do we
No, I
want to
agree.
bring
I
that
agree.
road to 66?
We have
So
to pay
we
our
are-
fair share.
Oh, sorry. The actual asphalt then blacktop would be more narrow.
That's
With a 60, yes,
It would be, okay.
yes. So the
It would be
idea
like a
is,
subdivision size, not a minor collector size.
yes, so the standard residential, you're trying to bring, the use there is I live there, or I'm going to visit. You're bringing them to the minor collectors that are funneling them down to majors to get you out to your other amenities. That's sort of the
Okay.
general principle. So yes, you would lose
What
asphalt.
would excuse me, I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask the same thing, so go ahead. No, I want you to say.
What is 900 West? What the
Yeah.
actual asphalt width?
Cause I have a
So it's
feeling that's not minor.
66.
What's the asphalt width? 66 or 900 West?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
Because if we, I understand.
Amount
the
of-
easement. And if we're not having that sidewalk, I don't know why that just couldn't shift over. We give up that 6 foot on that side, why the road has to change. I don't see this as a big, I know definitely there'll be some stuff up the top sometime. But, I mean, it isn't the 900, it's not 1100. It's the top of 500, and 500 does get wider a little bit as it comes down, and that should get bigger as it gets.
Sure, 'cause it's gathering
cars
more as
coming
it
in,
comes
as
down.
more cars gather in. This is the top. I don't know, and I don't, from the city, I don't wanna buy that, we don't have 50,000, I thought it was 70,000.
You're just saying 50,000 for the easement,
Then-
then that doesn't include the road.
Yeah, so.
So maybe one of the items is to come back with a better number, because most of that you don't have those zones where we've been debating the road type. So if you were doing, and up until this moment, if you were doing the rural, the cost to make the improvement by the right of way would have been different than if you're now doing the standard. So if we're going to 66, so that's 4 feet or 6 feet more asphalt, and then if that's a taking as well, and then the city's probably covering that item as under that same rule, but that's the adopted impact fees. That's why we added those, is so you could do these kind of things in these scenarios.
I want to be able to drive 2 cars, have on
Street
street parking, so there's 4 car widths, whatever that road is, and I think that's the big thing here. Skyline Drive or 4300 has a 6-foot turning lane in the middle that we don't need here. And if 4300 is the 66-foot road, is that what you're saying?
No, it's not.
Which
It's more-
one?
It's more than.
4300, what is that one?
4,300
that's-
resident, or
it's
60 foot.
No.
4,400, is that what?
43.
Excuse me, 4300.
By the, across from the fire station, that width. is much
Yeah, I think
bigger
that's
than-
gonna be.
Yeah,
Is
so
that-
you're back at an 80 for
That's a-
Skyline.
That's full collector over.
So a major collector there. Yeah.
Miners. wait a minute.
So that's your east-west
Like
major
microphone.
collector, 500 is your north-south major collector that you're
Okay, so-
trying to get the rural.
So 900 and 500 would be the minor that would go into the major. collector.
Yes, they're trying to funnel all the standard residential from
Yeah.
your home to those to get to your next destination, not just.
Can I say something about the road? So I think we need to be intellectually honest with how much we really care about a minor arterial road. I don't care, I'll asphalt the whole field if that's what we want. Tax the other 11,000 citizens that aren't sitting in this room to pacify the 11 that are sitting in this room, want now all of a sudden a major asphalt road where before it was water and alluvial fan regeneration and we don't want roads, now we want it, that's fine. I don't care about that, and if we care about the sidewalks, what I wanna know is I think everybody just needs to be honest. If we came back and said, yep, we're doing an 80-foot road, we're now gonna turn this and we're gonna put highways in there, and we're gonna put 16-foot sidewalks on each side, does that make us happier? Honest question, does that make you happy? Or is it just kind of a gotcha? It's something that we're never gonna be happy about if there's houses there. I think we just really need to answer that question, because has it been too long? I've been lived here for 34 years, and this has been debated since I was a kid, since I used to walk through the fields where all your houses are at now. This has been debated that long. So has it been too long? I don't know. It's been through planning commission 6 times, city council 4 times. Yeah, no, I get it. And has it been debated for a long time? Yeah. Oh, I remember it being debated as a kid. So grew up in the area. So it's been through planning commission how many times? More to say, well, let me ask my questions. And if it's the answer to that question, that's great. It's been through planning commission multiple times, correct? Yes. Okay. What other developments are you saying? Because we're getting accused of going outside of the norm, right? Which is what our city code anticipates, which is why we have development agreements. But what other developments do you recall going through the cycle this many times? Can anybody name them? Never, in our city's history, right? Never happened. We all agree and stipulate to that. So I think we just need to be honest and say, we don't want houses there. And that's the real issue. If that's not the case, then tell me what I'm.
May I respond? Could you ask?
Yep.
Mayor, I refer to the mayor to allow that, or not.
Yeah.
I would.
30 seconds, I will keep it short, since I made this statement. We would not have voted as a planning commission if we didn't know that it was going through the process. We had a full house here and we voted to recommend to this group based on the facts of it would have the road. I liked Ann's comments a few minutes ago when she said, let's leave the wider road, which would be, the general plan said, let's have the road. And it wasn't popular. We said, do that. I'm okay with one side being not sidewalk and that meets the open space. So you asked the question, would we be happy?
The city code.
It doesn't, but it's a whole lot closer because we're meeting the general plan of an arterial road, not just a subdivision road. You asked, am I okay with houses? Yeah, sure. Housing, Steve's made the comments. We all wanted to move in here and close the door behind us, right? I love the comment, but we don't have that luxury. So we have to make it in planning for the short term and the long term. I'm okay with the houses there. Let's just look at it the best way that it'll fit
Yeah, but
The
I'm
long-term
what I'm
goal.
trying to figure out is, cause you're saying things that will be a variance from the city code, and what we're being told is that we should not vary from the city code. But right now, you're
let's-
saying you'd be okay with us not having a sidewalk on that
Okay.
side
Now
of the
we're
road.
at 30 seconds.
So that's my point, is I don't know that there's a agreement we come to on that road that pacifies the 11 to 13 people that are very.
Well, I think you said it best when you say, okay, what? I can't predict the future. I don't know what's to be up there. Right now, until Pineview gets water up there above 45-75, before they can develop up, but there's not that much above us
There's not a lot.
before we run into a mountain.
Most of
So
it's already
I'm not
developed,
sure-
most of it's already developed. There's only maybe, there might be 100 acres, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I would think if it's gonna be a minor collector, I would like to kind of know what it's really gonna collect, other than those 3 houses or 4 houses, what's along 45-75. Would probably rather come down that road than go over 900. I would, if it was me. You know, I'd be in here supporting a road saying, "Hey, but does that need to be for 4 houses or 3 houses, a minor collector 66? I don't know the answer to that. But you said the other 11,000 people, do we want them to all pony up? Because that's what it is. That's why we're making the decision, not the planning commission. It's a financial decision that we need to make on behalf of 11,000 other people, 11,212 people, to say, do we want this to be a 60-foot road or a 66-foot?
Well,
Oh,
I just a comment on the width of the road. With the size of these lots, there will likely be 0 cars ever parked on these roads, regardless, the smallest lot. Because they're about half acre, or more than half, a little more than half acre, so. That's different than any other residential road we have in the city because they always have cars parked on the street. So that's one of the ones. I do think, one of the things I think we ought to change on this. I like the sidewalk all the way up. I think that's right with the road. But I do think on the west side of the road, it doesn't make sense to have a sidewalk above the 3 lots. So there's 3 lots on that side and the rest of it would be open space and 1 very large lot at the top. The bottom 3, I think we ought to have, because at some point we will come back and like we've done in some of the last 4 or 5 projects we've done, we'll have to have a sidewalk there at some point. They could cross the road, but it's also going to be a busier road at the bottom because to get to a sidewalk. But that, that's more dangerous because now you've got everybody coming off from 4400. Everybody that lives in the subdivision behind this is all going to use this other road. It's going to be faster and easier to come over 4400 and down. So.
Yeah, the majestic heights, they're talking about coming down through 4300 down.
4400 across the, yeah.
So right now the plan is to take the west side, in the development agreement, to take the west side sidewalk all the way up.
No,
Right.
the
But then
east side.
East side sidewalk.
Oh, I thought it was the
And
west
the
side.
debate is the,
East side, because that's where all the lots are.
yeah.
All the development lots.
Uninterrupted, right?
Yeah, it'd be all the way from 4300 all the way to
Does that make
4575.
sense? So you're talking about west side?
I'm talking about the 3 bottom lots below the open space. They're, I don't know what size, they're bigger than half acre, but they're small lots there. Down to 4300, so we're talking probably 400 feet because of their, their frontage is gonna be close to 100 feet.
To Ann's point then, if you did take, and I like the idea of taking the sidewalk from one side, sidewalk. Expanding it, making it full-size road. Sounds like that satisfies most of the concerns, but is that still a city then paying for that excess of the?
Yes.
Even though the easement would still be the same, we wouldn't have to have an easement acquisition.
No, the easement would be increased as well,
Because
right?
we got a couple feet.
Well, you still need it. You still need the easement on both sides of the road,
Yeah.
regardless if you don't have sidewalk,
So we would have the same size easement regardless of whether we're putting the.
sidewalk or not.
So it's still the same size.
Yeah,
So it's
you do, your right of way would stay the same, so that's where your sidewalk, park strip,
Five-
some of the utilities ends up in there. That's that's part of your right of way, and then your roadway is the 46.
So what I was trying to figure out then is even if we did add suggestion, we are still acquiring and paying the additional cost of the roadway, which is somewhere from 50,000 up to a number we don't know what it would be. Yeah.
On the open space too, and I mean, it doesn't, we took out the agriculture part of that. I don't understand why that would be taken out. To me, that makes sense that it should be in there, or you couldn't ever use it to.
Agriculture,
It says,
Education.
it's, no, it said,
It
we
was
took out agriculture and education.
educational. Yeah, just because it
But
didn't match the city ordinance.
But if you read in the development agreement, it talks about, shoot, where is it? That it would for wildlife and, oh man, I can't even find it. It just talks about wildlife and maybe that's it. I can't. It
Could
may,
you have horses on?
no,
on
in
agriculture?
my mind, I don't think you could have any animals on it with that. And it doesn't make sense to me if you do have, that lot is not developable. It's got subwater and a spring in there, just not developable. It's got water and it makes sense for that to be open space just for that reason alone. And if it's not gonna be fed off, it's just gonna be a large group of high weeds that you can't go in and mow because you lose a tractor when you're doing it. So to me, it makes sense, hey, that should be not buildable, but still be able to be used for agriculture or wildlife or any of that. But I don't know why we took agriculture out, because doesn't make sense to me, but.
Yeah, I mean, our city ordinance says that it's supposed to be, we're supposed to have appropriate covenants and agreements which restrict the land perpetually as open space for common use and for permanent maintenance of such areas by.
Because their tickets, yeah, their tickets got accidentally scanned on the way.
She's.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
Okay, sorry.
so I think that it's that, is it for common use of the development? Now, I don't think it needs to be a city park to Steve.
Did you say something, Shirley?
Play around with my kids, but it's more, is it for open common use for that development? And I don't know if.
Well, the argument I
agriculture
was
is.
told was he wanted to basically use animals to
Keep track, to keep the fees down.
maintain it. Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense. yeah.
It's had a group of, when we went up and walked through it, it's had horses on that particular section of the property for many years. The same person has had their horses in it. It's not the landowner, it's a different person.
So you think the way it reads right now, horses then?
Well, I just want to make sure it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because to me, that makes sense, because
That's what's there naturally.
you can't manage that piece of property. Wildlife, yeah, you're gonna get all sorts of wildlife you don't want there and fires, so.
Yeah.
Good point.
Do you feel like that prohibits horses? It's
I don't know
an
if
A two
I don't know if
use
that's-
of properties.
Is agriculture or horses, or is that just farming? I don't know. That's a.
A two zoning allows horses, so I would
Well,
imagine.
half acre lot, you can have a horse too, I think, can't you?
R20 you can.
R20.
R 20, yeah.
Yeah.
So agricultural might be more like paid.
Farming,
Uh,
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
The comments?
I had a couple other ones that were from the city, residents, so Julie specifically, I promised Julie we'd talk about some of them. So rural road, we can put that to bed, right? This isn't rural road. Subdivision, not a cluster. The average size of these lots is half acre. I mean, I was trying to zoom in on the map.
Yeah, there's
but they're-
nothing smaller than.
Probably an
Yeah.
acre and a half probably or something.
I don't
Acre and
know.
a quarter.
Some of the lots are very big.
Up at
so
the
I don't know
top,
if the
they're
average
big, the
is, but-
bottom, they're little. And again, our city code, the way I read it, it limits how small you can go. It doesn't limit how big you can go in a cluster. And I think it's because we don't have like mayors, not a lot of places you can go big with a cluster, so. But I know the only legal limitation is little. And then the tree preservation. I personally don't know of a time when the city required people not to cut down the trees. I've never seen that.
And what's sad, I just might comment on that. When I went up there and looked at it, it's like to put 44 across, just to
You're gonna
extend it
have-
from where it is. I can't believe the trees that are gonna have to be removed just to facilitate that.
Well,
It's sad.
each tree, I had a friend of mine
That's
give
required.
me what it would cost to cut down one of those cottonwoods. Those are gonna be like $15,000-$20,000 trees to cut down. I can't anticipate that they're going to cut down. But also, I just don't know how
Just
we
the-
can.
Probably
cut
the
them down.
numbers for the.
My,
road.
my history with cottonwoods is they die. They
Yeah.
die relatively young. And what happens if they die? Does that mean they've got to replant it?
Yeah, I just-
They've got to cut it down and replant it? I think that's unreasonable to put on any owner,
Yeah,
landowner.
Don't know. if
Okay,
we can
sorry
do
to
it.
interrupt you.
No, and then there's just one other thing I had to Scott's comment was the geotech survey. Can we just clarify for everybody's purposes, the process of when that stuff would normally happen? So we've got a development agreement that's to us. When would you normally do like a geotech survey or a land?
In the design, when you're in the subdivision.
So can you walk us through the timeline on that stuff? So it goes from here to when does it go to?
So what you're looking at is essentially a concept. So when they come in with their full and you're submitting where the water main survey, all your detailed plans, it's usually accounted for there. I know they have an older one, but that's
So-
usually when that comes in.
Yeah, so all I'm trying to point out is nobody at this stage would have that stuff. That's not the process. They would go from here to that process. The fact that we have some of that in this case is just abnormal. You wouldn't normally have it at this stage.
Bill, can I make a comment quick?
You go ahead.
Sorry. So, with what's happening right now, though, everything that's in the design phase with staff and planning commission will be subject to what is approved in the development agreement. So so unless it specifically says they can or can't, they won't necessarily have to because everything will defer back to what is agreed. Pardon?
That's not a true statement. It's.
That's not a true
it's-
statement. So, okay.
They still have to follow the other processes that aren't exempted in here.
Okay. So, okay.
It doesn't say
Just
all
clarify.
they have to do is this. This is saying what
Okay.
is an exception to the other stuff they have to do.
Okay.
Sarah, are you saying it has to go back to planning commission? Because that's not how I read it.
No, it will when it goes in for the site plan. Yes. When he
Yeah,
goes in
so
for his site plan. His site
Uh,
plan, yes.
the subdivision, no, the
Yes.
development agreement.
No,
Subdivision.
the subdivision process, he'll still have to go to DRC, and then it goes with staff recommendations to planning commission. But any sort of other provisions, like the mayor mentioned, what is included or not included, what is included in this development agreement that may be contrary to what our standards or whatever else says, it won't matter. It'll be subjected to this development agreement. Just clarification of
What's in
that.
the roadway here is what's binding on.
Or open space or setbacks or anything else that might be in the development agreement, yes. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I've talked a lot, but the last thing I want to bring
Sorry,
up is
I'll be quiet.
Of concerns with 4400 North the neighboring property owner has had a flag lot approved on the west side. And then now a cluster on the right side, both of which are not A5 anymore, and he's in the middle sandwiched on A5. And that's my primary concern with the whole thing is I know there's kind of we'll figure it out later on how to allow him to do anything with his property, but it's not in the development.
Well, this is what's problematic about that is because, our is normally we say we're gonna extend to, an undeveloped so that they can develop in the future. He's not undeveloped. He has a 5-acre lot that's been approved. That's his lot. He's looking to say, if somehow I can subdivide it in the future, which we have no provision for right now at all, to allow, I mean, if you came in right now, we'd be like, no, you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But who knows what the legislature is gonna come up with and that kind of stuff, but it's my understanding they've worked out a way to. And maybe Andrea can address this better, cause she's talked to Brad and.
Dave and I were up there And we talked to the adjacent landowner about this, and one of the concerns was he doesn't have 150-foot frontage. So even at that, he can't develop that lot. I think that the developer and he came up with an idea of how to make that work if they ever do decide to
Yeah.
subdivide, but I don't know.
It's why I said this when we did it as A2 to me. I think that whole area needs to be the same. But I think that's a general plan up to.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if we, that's why I thought maybe in the open space portion of that, if we could allow for an easement in future that would only allow a road through that open space or the bottom of the open space. So that's the only way you could do it.
Right.
Okay, we won't think you can divide the open
But I think
space.
that's what he's talked with the other landowner is that bottom south portion to allow him to have.
Right, I'm
something.
just saying at a future point, he could pay for that to allow him to develop it. But if we put the wording in here, I don't know if we need to put the wording in here. You know, I thought if he was really interested in it, he would have. I mean, we've been talking about this property now for years. To his point, he should be working to protect his property and to figure that out, but.
I hate that it forces people that wanna, like, I have to develop right now or I'm gonna lose my chance ever in the future, you know, that's my only concern.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't wanna compel people to develop their agricultural use land, you know.
From what I understood though, is that they were going to an agreement between the two of them that if and when he ever wanted to subdivide that he would have a chance to do
Yeah.
that based on some.
I think that's great. I just, you know, people die, people move, things
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what would be your proposed solution?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. We created a mess by approving flag lot to the west. So I don't know. That's what I don't, it just seems like this, to be fair, this same petitioner has brought the flag lot to the west and now this cluster to the east. It seems like this being sandwiched in the middle is not getting.
Just so you know, that is something that the legislature is going to consider is allowing flag lots and not saying the city cannot. The cities in the entire state of Utah cannot say you
Well,
can't.
in this circumstance, it might make sense.
Yeah.
I understand why we don't like flag lots.
I do too. From the fire department standpoint, they
Yeah.
really are
That's good.
awful.
Anyways, it's not here. He's not here to speak to it. I'm just.
Another thing I would like to make sure is, like I said, I'd like to add language to the recitals that say why we're doing this. The other thing is on just, it's a ticky-tacky thing, but on developers' responsibilities under 1.1. And it says general subdivision layout is shown in Exhibit B. I want to change that just to say general subdivision concept layout is shown in Exhibit B. Okay, this is not an approved, we're not approving a subdivision here. It still has to go through the the whole thing. And so I want to make sure that that's, shown as just a concept and not.
You give me the reference there, 1.1.
1.1
I. Okay.
Mayor, can I address another issue?
Yes.
So we haven't talked about it, the density. And
Yeah.
does the density allow us, or does the development agreement allow us to exclude or to make changes to the density, right? Because the proposed
State code
density is,
to do it. I
so,
looked that up today and
okay, because the total property, 26.5 acres, whatever it is, allows
under
for
the
the
exaction section is where I looked this up. And found
That's what I was hoping.
that
I
is a
mean,
compromise that can be made
because
to
of the
make sure it's an
exaction.
exaction versus a taking.
Okay. Because and legally, we want to make sure we're doing the A2 zoning,
Mhm.
but I didn't know if
Yeah.
there is an option to do that or not. So thanks for that clarification. Because in my mind, I was wanting to make, because we've talked about this being 13 lots since when we approved it months ago. So anyway, okay.
I would like to, I am for the 60-foot easement and the regular road. I don't want the city to have to spend 50 or whatever it is I would rather spend that on other roads and, improving those. I think that'll be fine, for me personally. And I know that's an issue. I think we also need to have item 4 with our legal aspect that we talked about as part of that motion to have these things subject to he wanted to make some changes there. I don't think that changes anything that it's just a language thing. And Phil, you might want to address that. I don't know.
Say the agree, instead of
No,
the agreement.
I would, in whatever motion it would be to make changes the city attorney recommends.
So, yeah, so that would have to be there, part of that language, because I'm not that.
Right, he just wants to change it so that it makes reference basically to the development that's being proposed rather than the development
So, yeah,
agreement.
so anyway, so whatever motion, I think we need to include
He
that.
just, he wanted to protect the city so that if after the 3 years plus the 1 year, if he was to walk away, it's protecting the city because we don't have any recourse on the agreement versus the development.
Mayor, can I make one other just comment? And this is, I'll be very brief because this is gonna be a short meeting. I think we've done our due diligence and I appreciate, Dave and Phil, we tried to have something fit that worked for everybody. And I think that's where we've gotten in a mess here, trying to have that be a special piece of property and do some things on the city side. And this was not part of the developer. It was the city side really that made some of these different things. Amy and a few people, and I think even Dana talked about, and Julie talked about this railroad concept. I think I want to have that be part of something going forward to be able to define that and what that really looks like. Because it is not something that's substandard. It's just a different look. Because we still want the road to stay together. We don't want to just lay some asphalt down or gravel down, which some of our roads are gravel, but have there be a standard. So I want to look at that down the road, maybe have staff look at some of that things. I think we're missing some of the aspect of what that could be in some of the other parts and other developments, and have that be an option for us to be able to do some fun things that are not the norm, that are not just the curb and gutter and the typical subdivision going through the hills. Because I think we're missing out on what that could be up there on the hill, which could be just a nicer place to drive through and, walking along a path or a trail or something like that. Anyway, so I think we've tried very hard to look at all sides and nothing to do with the developer. I don't really know the developer at all, but just have this piece because it is special. Anyway, but I don't know if we're going to make a motion at all, Mayor.
Well, I want to make a comment before we do, but
Okay.
if that's okay, I just wanted to go back and get a little bit of a history lesson. The developer, who I said is a good man, and somebody said that I said he's a good old boy, and he probably is, but I never said that. I said he's a good man. He came in with a proposal to do an A5 subdivision, but that the road would be a taking. And we checked with legal said absolutely 100% it would be a taking. The city would have to put that road in. The staff, and by the staff, I mean Public Works and the engineer, convinced me that we need that road in there. Okay, and so I went to bat to do that. We went and met with, me and Amy went and met with, before Andrea, met with the attorney to find out what that would require. And he said, well, you're gonna have to, basically tiptoe around this because it's complicated. And we knew it was complicated, and you can tell it's complicated because the scales are so close, and it doesn't take much of an asking to make those, tip to a taking instead of an exaction. And again, I was surprised 8 years, 7.5 years, I'd never heard of all this taking exaction stuff. 8 years on the city council, I never heard of that. On the planning commission, when I was on the planning commission, we never talked about that. So it was kind of an eye opener to me about this whole taking versus exaction thing, and property rights as associated, and the legal cases, the Nolan Dolan and all this kind of stuff. But again, this was the city in support of our public works and our engineer saying, we need this road. This was our city going back to the developer and saying, hey, if we did this and this and this, would you be willing to build this road? And so and since then, it's been that fine thing, working out the, what's fair for us and what's fair for them. And when I say us, I mean the 11,212 people, okay, which is, I'm sure, grown since the last census, but it's close to 12,000 people in our city, not just a few people. So, and again, we still represent the few people, but we represent everything. So when I said it comes down to a financial decision, basically the big financial decision is, do we want to pay for the 66-foot right of way and the 6-foot extra asphalt? If so, I'm sure, let's go for it. If I think we can use the money a lot of other places, but drive any of them, use the money and fix 45-75 halfway decent, but yeah, that's just my viewpoint, because 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we might get some homes up there. But they're not going to be 100 homes up there above us. And it's not going to necessarily need to be a minor collector other than just some. But that's the decision the council needs to make, is do we want to spend the money? I think everything else has kind of ironed itself out other than that. So what's your druthers there? And whoever's going to make a motion, please include that in your motion. Tyson's itching to say something, I think.
If staff can have the opportunity to come back with those numbers, like if we know that that's what the roads we're settling on and it's the standard, we could come up with some idea of what those numbers would be for the additional. Or even if you do the 6-foot standard or the 66-foot standard, and if the taking and versus the exactions, if we can do the undersize, just thinking of the last, again, the sidewalk projects and the right of way that we've done all across the city for multiple projects, getting the 66-foot right of way, and then maybe building the asphalt width for the 60, so it's not an impact on the developer. And then the city doesn't have to come back in 10 years and fight for right of way and then do the improvement, just as a suggestion to meet those.
Well, that was my question, and I apologize, I got a little heated. If we did that, if we went and said, here's the cost of the road, we can now make it the full road width. Does everybody in this room come back and say, okay, great, we're happy now? The full road width is the issue? Because I know this isn't a back and forth, but that's what I'm wondering. Because then do we go to the rest of the citizens and say, okay, it's gonna be $86,000 citizens. If this were happening in Jacobs Mill, would you want to pay the $86,000? And this is rhetorical, I'm asking you to think about the question. Would you want the $86,000 coming from the city to widen the road in Jacobs Mill? And that's the question that we have to ask. And so I think it would be worth us knowing the numbers, but I think as a council, we need to really say, if it were 10,000, would we do it? If it were 20,000, I don't know what my number is that I would do.
I just don't think that we're gonna gain that much from that. I just don't, I can't.
Well, I think we could build this into the motion that we approve it at whatever, whether it's 60 or 66 foot. And I don't think I think we're to a point where we really need to move this forward. Not,
one way or the other.
yeah. And we can either, if you approve it 66 and you say, well, we can't afford that, then we come back and amend it to 60 or whatever, or but it needs to be a quick decision. I mean, we have put this, he started this in January, and it's August. So now if he is to get a subdivision plat drawn up, it would probably be September before you can get on the planning commission, I'm assuming. So.
Okay, so can I just, in summary, then, these are the items that we have discussed that we would need to change or that we've discussed tonight. So the recitals would be, we would do the Y. So the taking would be inside the recitals. That would be spelled out a little bit better. We had to 1.1I, we would put concept, just a change of wording, like you said, that it's not the final plan, it's a concept. The sidewalk on the west side to cover the 3 bottom lots, the 3 homes. The water line contingency to 1A would be the 10-foot pipe at the city's discretion.
10-inch.
10-foot pipe's a big
Would be
pipe.
awesome.
Move some water.
Water sliding.
Move some water.
10-inch.
10-inch.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And then under number 4, which is the terms and binding, we would rework that to the city attorney's wording. And then we would change Weber County to Pleasant View City on the dedicating the easement. And then we just gotta make a decision on that road.
Go ahead. Just state your name, this developer.
So my name's Matt Montano. I live in Pleasant View. You guys talked about the usage of the parcel, the open space. Did we agree that it did not prohibit animals, livestock being on there?
I think we put that in.
Yeah, I think we should
Clarify that?
clarify that agriculture would allow that. That's what you're concerned
Yeah,
about.
because I,
Look at the definition of.
Okay, so we can leave out shelter in.
So, yeah, I think it needs to read more than just wildlife on there. I think it-
So.
that's what you're asking, right,
Cannot
Matt?
include- No. What is that? Cause I don't want domesticated elk herds, right? Or what, I'm wondering, what do we define what livestock means? Pig farm versus horses, right? Like, how delineated do we need to be there on?
Why couldn't it be anything allowed in an A2?
Yeah, I mean, that's, so
Okay.
yeah. Animals.
That's current.
The A2
currently-
actually is more restrictive than the RE20. RE20, I could have a pig farm if I've got 5 acres. But
Just,
the A2
you,
I can't.
you couldn't do it commercially, but you could raise them for
I
your
can
own
have a
use.
commercial Pig farm in RE20.
On RE20?
I can have it says I can have a pig farm.
Oh, good, I'm gonna put one
I
in.
don't know if there's commercial versus non-commercial pig farms, but in 5 acres. That was my point when we made A2. A5 doesn't have agricultural uses. Really. A2 does, so yeah, that makes sense. Does that?
That's a question. Okay.
thanks.
So I guess I'm not ready to make a motion until we decide what we want to do with the road. So I'm fine with all of those things discussed there that I just brought up. But I still am trying to decide what to do with the road.
Why don't you tell us what you think about it? Steve has told us what he thinks about the road. He's okay with the 60-foot. What do you think about the road? Or do you want me not put you on the spot?
No, you put me on the spot.
I think that's.
I can talk about it.
Well, let's.
So I made the comment earlier that no one's gonna park on this road, and so I think that, to me, the 60-foot road is adequate for all of our heavy traffic needs, so.
Okay, so let's
Set-
think about our subdivisions where we live, okay? I live down in the old Great Patch. So on that road, am I comfortable with someone parking on my side of the road, the neighbor side of the road, and then cars passing through there?
Happens, every street has that currently right now. Like, you drive through any street and below Pleasant View Drive where I live, and there will be cars parked on both sides of the road, and they're not wider than 60-foot roads.
It's tight though in my neighborhood. My neighbors park on the street and I don't, but if I did, it would be tight to pass, right? I mean, that's pretty tight.
Okay, so I guess the thing that I'm batting around in my head is if we go with a bigger road, then we are giving up some open space. We are giving up some water recharge. We are giving up some of those things that the residents wanted. So I guess I'm just kind of torn here because I don't know, which way to go. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, is what I'm torn on.
I'm willing to go to 60-foot road. I just don't think it warrants us to be at a higher density road, higher width road for future use there. for the
Yeah.
cost of what it would cost the city to do it.
So how could we incorporate, sorry, I'm just talking out loud because I don't know what I'm doing yet. So could we do something with Tyson's suggestion where we come back and know exactly what we're turning away? Like, if we do go with the bigger road, so we'd have to pay for the easement and the asphalt and the city would have to pay for it. What does that cost? You know, and can we, I don't know, I'm just trying to say, how can we incorporate that into a motion? Do we set a limit? Like anything above X amount, you don't want to do that? Or I don't know, what do you think?
But so can I ask Tyson this?
Yeah.
What does it benefit us from a city to have a white, for you as Public Works to take care of everything? Does it benefit us at all to have a wider road?
So it gets into future planning, and that's where, if the debate is having that wider road right now and that cost right now, that's why even suggesting the 66 right away, so you have that flexibility as the city grows, and you're not, because right away purchasing is harder than infrastructure in the future. I mean, that's why you get into the legalities of eminent domain and to facilitate that. So to me, I would argue that the right of way width is the more important element
Okay, so,
in that
That doesn't
scenario.
cost the developer anything. Can we do that?
so what if we,
It does, it takes the property from you.
Yeah.
But they can't develop on, the developer can't use that property,
the right-of-way property?
the right-of-way property for anything but landscaping.
But it moves back their setbacks,
Yeah, their setback would be a little
6 feet.
different,
three
3 foot
Three
each
foot,
side.
3 foot on each side. So it's very minimal.
But we're acquiring, we'd still have to acquire that.
So we could acquire it, but we wouldn't necessarily have to asphalt it.
Yes,
improve
and
it.
maybe you
Right.
do the 60-foot standard, the curb and the asphalt section. To keep the developer just covering that cost for his part in the equation. And then you have the ability as the city to move into that other 6 feet if the time comes that they've talked to bike lanes, because you're trying to get up to the trailheads, that's what you were doing with 5 and 43. But it gives you the options to do those if the public wants it and it's warranted in the future.
So maybe this is a dumb question, but so can you push it to one side? Like, in other words, could you do the acquisition all on one?
How they decide to
Okay,
plat it out. Subdivision.
gotcha. Well, in my mind, I think that there's wisdom in acquiring it. And then we can still make the decision on if we put the asphalt down on it or not, but we could at least just acquire it and then it would be ours. And then we could, because like I see wisdom in what Tyson's saying. It is hard to acquire land later and right of ways.
Yeah, you're never, if you don't do it now, it's eminent domain, it's a disaster later on.
And the fund I'm referencing is the impact fee we adopted. You can't use it for maintenance. It's specifically for these scenarios where the city, that's what that fund is adopted for. So you can buy and do your expansions in these taking scenarios.
So if this is the case, then we are saying we would still do the minor collector 66 foot with the city paying for the right of way, the easement. Right?
Yes,
Am I
the
saying that correctly?
additional 6 feet.
Okay.
And then we would be doing the standard 60-foot
I
design.
think if you're gonna do that, if that's gonna be part of the motion, I think it should also state that at the subdivision process, the city will inform the developer whether we're gonna put the asphalt in or not, rather than the city's gonna pay for the extra, and then he can come
Yeah.
back with the numbers.
So to me,
I won't hold up this, but it will be at the next step, we will let the developer know, yeah, the city's gonna pony up the extra 6 feet of asphalt.
Because that's a new enough
top of
fund.
the
I don't
right-of-way.
have the current state of it off the top of my head. That's all it is for.
I get why we'd want to have it for future use, but to me, if we're gonna spend $50,000 or whatever that amount is, it's wasted money unless we make the road wider. Right? Because we're not gonna use it unless we widen the road and in that case, it's wasted money. To me, I mean, I guess you have to look at the future, right? What's the future gonna hold of that? And I don't know, I think it's wasted minutes.
Part of it is like the accusation of, that's why I was getting heated about, does this really matter? Because if it really matters, and we said, I don't remember us having a detailed conversation about 60 versus 66 foot when,
Right.
when we approved
Just
this.
said standard road.
But if the planning commission did, I don't know, but we didn't. But my question is, if it really matters and we think that future, is going to turn into a minor arterial there that we're gonna need, then yeah, but otherwise, we're stewards of the city's taxpayer money, and I don't know. I mean, even if we acquire the easement now, we still don't know. That's an undetermined amount of money, right? We don't know what that's gonna cost us,
It's about 50 for these.
about 50.
That's what.
And
Val-
then we can decide if we wanna do the asphalt or not, once we get to and we find out if the cost is $220,000, then no, if it's 5,000, then yes, we can kind of. So maybe that.
I know like 50,000 is a lot of money, but I'm thinking like in the future, if we don't spend the 50,000 now, it would be a lot more money in the future, right? And
The Skyline, right, just frontages in existing lots. There were a couple of them in the 50 range. And
And
that's
do we
just
have-
for frontages.
And do we have impact fees that would cover the 50,000 to take on the easement to acquire it?
That's what that fund is for. I just don't have that number off the top of my head.
We've got enough to use that piece.
It's a newer fund, but that's why it was adopted for these scenarios. That's the only thing you can spend it on is upsizing past takings.
Okay, you guys ready?
It is possible to borrow from,
Yes.
if that makes sense. We take the money from somewhere else and then we pay ourselves back out of that impact fee as it's collected, but anyway, yeah, we need to make a motion.
And, or were you going to make a motion? Cause I have a couple questions before you go ahead.
Oh,
I just want to clarify.
Please do.
On section 13B, where you were referring to the licensed contractor, it actually, references section 2.2A. So I would ask that that be changed to 2.1A.
Okay.
To match the water infrastructure.
On
And
that
then
water line contingency, the 2.1A, the 10.
So
inch?
1.3B, where it talks about the improvements as detailed in paragraph 2.2A, that needs to be changed to 2.1A.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a minor change, and then,
Right.
on 1.2A I would ask that that be just struck. That's because we have obtained the easement, it doesn't need to be stated in,
It's already there. We already acquired.
we've already acquired the easement, so I would just ask that that be struck entirely.
But one point two AI one, I guess it is. That they still have to do the improvements.
That's correct.
43.
Yes,
Two
yes.
gets struck, and that makes sense.
It's just unnecessary to state that we already have the easement, because we already have the easement.
1.2 AII.
Yes, and then I just wanted to verify that the 4400 north right of way was addressed and the 4575 north roadway was addressed as well when you go through. I just want to make sure that you weren't making any changes on that. So I was taking
What
note.
is the width of the 4,400 road? 60 foot?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just addressing the right of way from 500 westward. Because he has language that it's not required to dedicate that right of way, so I'm just make sure that if that's what you're saying, that we leave that alone.
And I'm not trying to belabor this point, but if people parked on both sides of 4400 right now, which I know you guys aren't as familiar with 4400, but I'm trying to figure out how tight that really is, like, so Tyson, parking on both sides of, you either got 4400 or you've got 4350 north. I think those are both the same size roads. We're talking about those are 60-foot roads. People do park on both sides of those right now. And but there's not bike path space there, right? There's park on both sides and drive space, but there's not
Yeah, so you're just changing the pattern, what you can do inside of your asphalt width. So, centered turn lanes if it warranted, bike paths, utilities, like all of that. It's not just the top roadway, it's also what you're doing inside or under it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what is the possible need for 6 foot further that justifies the expense? And it would be so that we could have like a turn lane. Is that
Those
what-
are just, yeah, just depending on what the need is, if it arises in the future. But so at one point, yeah, they talked about bike lanes going up, 500 west. I think that's, they've added them down on 6 and then they wanted to add them on Alberta, but you don't have the right of way on Alberta. So it just gets into some of those different
How wide is
options.
the existing 500? Is that 66?
No, so
500?
this is a 80 foot.
80 foot is
It's not it's a full flight.
500. 500, yeah.
All the way to 43.
So there
and
would
then
be
it
room
narrows.
there, so we wouldn't have to acquire anything if you did do a bike path or whatever. You just have to.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd have to do it. I understand.
Yeah, and that's something they'd have to debate if you had to do that expansion as it works,
So
whatever they're
let me
trying to
just put
gain.
a little bit of perspective in this. So a 40-foot road, the maximum vehicle width is 8 feet.
Yeah.
For any vehicles. So 8 feet and 4 vehicles across is 32 feet. You have an extra 8 feet of leeway on a 40-foot road. Which is not a lot when you're driving,
Right.
but that's the scenario if you have cars parked on both sides of the road and you're driving.
Which
two-
you
two
wouldn't
cars down.
want if it was really going to be a collector major traffic pattern. I would.
I agree.
Limited to 8.
I don't think it ever will be.
But well, above those 3 houses, there's open space and one very large lot. So one side of the road would likely
Never have cars parked on it.
never.
And
have
that's what
cars.
you meant by there's not to be cars parked. The bottom 3, there could be, because there's houses on both sides.
Which is the worst spot probably, but I don't know.
I've done about 8 that'll never have to be projects, so just for reference.
You ready to make a motion?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We've got it all written down.
Oh, yeah. It's a long one. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the development agreement as proposed tonight with these following changes. Under the recitals, we will add a Y with the taking spelled out. The water line contingency to a 10-inch at city discretion, that's 2.1.a. The concept is added to 1.1i. The sidewalk on the west side would be developed at the developer's expense at the bottom 3 lots on the west side. Under the terms and binding, number 4, the city attorney would rework that so that the language would be compatible and it would meet legal requirements. Now I can't read my writing. Yep, so the Weber County to Pleasant View City on the dedicated easement. We would allow animals currently that are allowed in A2. And then
In the open space.
in the open space, right? And then 6 foot at subdivision level, what does that mean, Ann? Lot developed known.
Did you already say striking 1.2?
So yeah, hang on one second. We're gonna strike 1.2 AII. And then as Andrea stated, 1.3B is 2.1A. And then we addressed 4575, we addressed 4400. And then we would do the 6 foot, we would purchase the 6 foot easement. And we would let the developer know at the subdivision level whether we are going to develop the asphalt or not. That's my proposal.
If you vote against it, Steve, you've got to restate the motion.
Okay, we have a motion
we-
on the, we have a second?
Can
Further
we-
Discussion as soon as I,
Okay, sorry.
Well, did we have a second?
do we have a second?
I can't second the easement portion of it, so I would remove the easement.
All right, somebody's gonna have to restate that then.
No, we
Thanks
could-
for lack of
I
second.
think we could just minus from the state, but.
Can I,
Heck, it's not gonna make you say it again.
Wish I knew the amount for this. I mean, I don't know if we should kill it on the second yet. I wish we knew the amount. I wish we knew. It's hard to vote that we're gonna acquire an unknown amount of property for an unknown amount.
even if we knew the amount, I just don't see a reason for it, honestly. I don't, I mean, it's a standard road and a standard subdivision. We're not narrowing that. We're not giving it away. We're having the sidewalk on both sides. I mean, we're having that. I just don't think that it's going to be the collector that some people think it might be. I just, because you go through all these subdivisions that are coming down through. And even if 4,400 comes on it, I mean, that will be a collector part. But when you get to 4,300, that's when we need to open up, or 500 as we come down. Those are the bigger width roads. And I don't think the 13 houses is gonna add to that big chunk. I just can't. I mean, I don't wanna spend, I'd rather spend that money on a lot of other things. I don't think we'll ever need it, honestly. I don't think it's gonna be a bike lane through there.
Okay, I'd like to amend the motion to say that the easement cannot exceed $50,000.
I'll second that.
So if it exceeds 50,000, we'll have to come back for an amendment.
We'll come back for an amendment.
I have a motion and a second for the discussion. And that includes the
So-
language that at subdivision level, the city will let. the
And that
developer-
includes that language. So I guess my thinking is, not only can we not predict the future, so not sure exactly, it's hard to get those easements later. Also, from my perspective, like, we love to use those foothills for cycling and hiking, and like, we just never know if we're gonna want that easement for something like that too. And to do some connection, like, I just think it's honestly smart to buy it now at a price tag of that. That's my opinion.
So would, I mean, I understand what we want on the east side. We need to have, utilities and things on the east side with the sidewalk. We need that easement there. The west side, we really don't need that easement along the wet area, the open space. Could we have an easement on the 3 lots or something where we go into the property? Because we don't need that going into the wet area. And
Eventually.
but
yeah.
the road potentially could be wider a little bit coming down past those 3 lots.
Just below 45.
Just below
4,400 south.
Okay, I have been pretty much opposed to the 66, thinking it's a waste of money, but if the money is going to come from impact that can be used for nothing other than this type of stuff, then it might make some sense to think ahead. It's up to the developer to figure out how to add that, if he wants to do 3 feet on each side, or 4 feet here and 2 feet there, or 1 foot here and 5 feet, I mean, they can figure that out at subdivision type of deal.
The road cost would be the same, it would come from those same funds, you're saying?
Yeah, well,
This is the easement.
Yeah.
and that's,
paying
now we're
for
gonna, that's in the
impact.
motion to determine, to let them know whether we're gonna do that at the subdivision.
So just to be clear, I'm not saying we're gonna add a road to it. We're not gonna, we're just have the right of way, the easement,
And
basically.
he's gonna come back with costs that we're gonna let the developer know.
Where
Want him
are
to build
those?
60 foot or 66.
Where are those funds? Are they?
Well, we're gonna come back with that.
They're in the budget for that right now, or no?
We have an impact.
Not,
fees.
Yeah.
not set for this one, but the fund amount is only for impact.
Okay.
Do we have $50,000 in that?
That's what I don't know. It's a newer fund.
Right.
So yeah.
like that.
Tyson, if you were doing this and you had the single, what would you want the easement? Would you want 66?
Yes, I would do the 66-foot right away.
I asked him that today too, and he said the same thing. so.
Yeah. And Dana said the same thing.
So, and it also, just to clarify that, so the collector design of this road came from the study. It wasn't something we as a council came out and said, we wanted to collect a road. It was from the study survey that we had, so.
It's
Isn't that-
part of your streets master plan.
Yeah, when you look at the streets plan, it's scheduled as a minor
But
collector.
that came from the study, right? That came from the study.
So it's been used in that study to come up with those impact numbers and deficiencies, and it's been yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Is the amended motion to include a limit of $50,000?
Yep.
And the second.
And he
is-
seconded
Okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion. Sarah's not on. Okay. Motion carries 4-0, one absent.
Yeah.
Okay, item 3 is a closed meeting, consideration for a closed meeting pursuant to one or more of the provisions of the Utah Code and Public Meetings Act, which is to
Fire property.
acquire property. So we do need a closed meeting real quick.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we go into a closed meeting to discuss property acquisition.
Second.
Motion by Marriott, second by Nelson. Roll call, Nelson.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Marriott.
Yes.
And Gibson. Okay. Okay. All right, sorry, we'll have to.